Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Software Automation webinar series. I am Ashley Wilson, a Customer Account Manager in the Western region, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all today. Today, I'll be joined by Patrick Nguyen from Alltech, who will be walking you through DocLink, the Sage document management solution. The goal is to show you a more effective way of managing everyday business processes by going digital, so you can eliminate paper and streamline your processes. Hopefully, we can start to give you some ideas on how going digital can help you improve efficiencies in AP, AR, sales order, contracts, HR, or any department throughout your enterprise. Just a few housekeeping items. All lines will be muted during the presentation. We will record and distribute the webinar to you in a few days for your convenience. If you have a question, please type it in the chat box at the bottom of your GoToWebinar sidebar, and then hit Send Question to Staff at any time during the webinar. Without further ado, let's get started with our presentation.
Great. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, folks, for joining us today. Like Ashley mentioned, I'm Patrick Nguyen, Sales Director at Alltech. So let's talk about Alltech and DocLink and how a lot of our customers use DocLink and how you can expand from it from just one area of your business. So we live in a world where everything is data-driven, right? This is basically live stats, real-time live stats from internetlivestats.com, and it's impressive to see how much information is going through people doing searches, people utilizing the internet, people utilizing Google or YouTube or anything like that, Instagram. Everything is at your fingertips through the internet, right, or from your mobile device. So what happens when it comes back to your office? The question is, do you have access to your own information, your own documents, information throughout your business when you're in your office to make those critical decisions within your organization to do your job, right? It's a completely different world when it comes to our office. We're not able to access the information that we need in a timely manner. And the reason being is a lot of times people still store things in paper. And that's the key thing, right? Organizations are storing documents and content in filing cabinets. Not uncommon, still used today. Next, people get things electronic and they start scanning and storing things in network file share. Great that you're getting things electronic, but what about workflow? What about audit history? What about locking things down so only certain people can access certain documents? You're leaving it up to a human person to make sure that they name the document correctly and file it in the right folder structure. And searching and retrieving can be difficult because as your repository grows in your network file share, finding something becomes pretty difficult. Then we get to software like DocLink, where everything is locked down based on a user's rights and roles and responsibility and how they could access information. But also everything is accessible that you're able to access simply through searches. So we're going to talk more about DocLink there. Business problems that we all face. And the key thing is, what are all these different problems that we face? Well, silos of business, right? Documents for each group and each department or each location, you have different document management needs and requirements, and every group and department manage things differently. And then there's inefficient business processes and workflows. Things are routed around manually. You don't have visibility or trackability or traceability on who has the document, when they approved it, or how to keep things on task. Lack of visibility, right? Security and compliance. Can you reproduce these documents easily when you need to, when you have an accounting audit or an FDA audit, depending on what business you are in, maybe a healthcare audit? We've seen a lot of our clients improve their audit process simply by implementing DocLink and managing their documents through DocLink. What about other things such as operational inefficiencies? How many delays have you gone through or experienced because things are managed on paper, things are misfiled, things like that, or deadlines aren't being hit, right? Because everything is managed through paper. Sorry. What about inability to maximize profits, right? You folks are spending a lot of hard costs in terms of offsite storage, maybe supplies, postage, things like that, right? Things that you could avoid cost on if you had everything electronic. So 3 simple questions to ask yourself as to why you might need a document management system like DocLink. Does your current system require a lot of touching, moving, and filing of documents? If you answer yes to that, DocLink can help. Are your approval processes manual and inefficient? If you answer yes to that, DocLink can help as well. And do you spend a lot of time doing data entry, especially on the AP side? A lot of our clients come to us with initially an accounts payable automation need. If you're doing a lot of data entry, we can help you there as well. So what is DocLink? DocLink, the first thing about DocLink is being able to capture documents. Capture documents, being able to bring in documents into DocLink. And it can be more than just documents, it can be content as well. So capturing can mean bringing in paper documents, scanning them in, picking up documents that are already electronic that come in via email, or uploading documents that you already have electronic. We can store any type of documents in their native format if they're already electronic, or even content for that matter. We have clients storing engineering drawings, storing WAV files, multimedia files. Capturing can also mean reading barcodes on documents or utilizing OCR, also known as optical character recognition, to pick up data on documents so that we could repurpose that information, maybe for AP automation, doing 2- and 3-way matching and automating the entry into the ERP. Once documents or content are in DocLink, of course, searching and retrieving becomes important. And we could do searches based on metadata searches. We could do full text search. You could search based on documents by a company, because we could set up different companies inside DocLink, just like your ERP system. We could have different document types. For instance, an AP invoice could be a document type, an AR invoice, a PO, a packing slip, a contract, HR documents. There's a lot of different document types that can be configured in our system. And then there could be workflow behind there too. So things that need to be routed around, whether it's for review and approval or simply a process flow workflow, maybe a work order process. Things need to go through a specific process as part of a work order. We can also automate delivery of documents. We'll touch more on that as well, being able to automatically send out documents as well as supporting documents, whether it's for vendors or to a customer or to internal folks. Also, one of the most powerful pieces of DocLink is to be able to create, imagine web forms, right? All different forms that you may have in your organization, being able to recreate those forms and manage them electronically versus how you folks may manage them today. Maybe by paper, maybe by Word or Excel. So any group or department that you may have forms, you could recreate and manage them all through DocLink and have workflow in managing them all electronically through DocLink. Quite often, common use case of those are on the accounting side, things such as check request, expense report, credit card reconciliation, new vendor setup or new customer setup. Those are common. On the HR side, I've seen vacation requests, new employee onboarding. Those are also common forms there. And of course, we are the exclusive Sage endorsed solution for document and content management. We've been approved, tested, and certified with all these different Sage ERPs, Sage 100, 300, Sage 500, Sage Intacct, as well as Sage Enterprise Management, formerly known as Sage X3. So our integration is very tightly integrated here, especially on the AP automation side. And let's talk about AP automation, right? DocLink for accounts payable. I would say probably 80% of our clients come to us with an initial need, an initial problem with accounts payable. And some of these problems come with, 3 major benefits that DocLink can bring to the organization, being that you'll have a self-service document access, right? Managing all your documents as it relates to payables electronically. Having work automation of workflows so that things get routed around and get approved in a timely manner. We can put time limits on steps. We can put escalation procedures in place. So we help ensure to move the process along so that invoices can be processed and paid and entered into the ERP system, which eliminates any manual filing of the invoice because everything will be electronic, and then minimizing the data entry that's needed to key in these invoices when we're able to automate it into the ERP system. Very common, which helps streamlines everything on the payable side. And let's touch more on eliminating filing and data entry. Imagine if you were able to pick up invoices that you get electronically directly from an email address, or maybe you get it via fax electronically. We can utilize OCR to pick up the data on there. If you get it in paper, of course, you could scan it in, and then we will leverage the existing data in the ERP as well as the data that we capture to do a two-way match or three-way match if it's a PO-based invoice, which helps automate that process and only manage by exception. So if things don't match up, then it goes through an approval process or review process there. If everything matches, we can create the entry inside the ERP, the Sage ERP, and create that receipt of invoice transaction. For non-PO based, of course, there's no matching involved there. It just goes through an approval process and a coding process and then gets entered into the Sage ERP system and creates that transaction. And at that point, all you need to do inside Sage is post and pay when you're ready to post and pay. Part of our integration into the different Sage ERPs in a lot of different windows, we have this View Documents button at the bottom of the screen. This is an example of a Sage 100 screen where we have this View Documents button. So depending on which screen you're on and the transaction you're in, you click on that View Documents button and it'll send a message back to DocLink where the documents are stored and launches the documents related to that transaction that you're on or that screen that you're on. Nothing gets stored inside Sage. Everything is stored within DocLink. It just sends a message. That link sends a message back to DocLink to pull documents related to that screen that you're on within Sage. And as part of self-service, so beyond accessing documents within Sage, you can also access documents in many other ways. For the non-Sage users, for instance, you could access the system directly through the Smart Client, which is our desktop application. We also have a web client where you could access a DocLink through any web browser, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Edge. Certainly could access there without any desktop application being installed. You could simply use your web browser, given that you have permissions to do it that way. We also give you capability to access documents through a mobile app. So we have an iOS app for iPads and iPhones. We also have an Android compatible app as well for Android compatible phones as well as tablets, where you can access documents, upload documents, and approve documents right from your mobile device. Timely approval, we hear from clients, is a huge thing. So imagine if you could approve right from your mobile device, whether it's directly through the mobile app or even via email. So imagine if one capability that you may want to set up for some of your users is being approved directly from email. Managers and some approvers will never need to even log into the system to approve. Simply, they can get an email with the document attached right here on the left side of the phone is an example of that email. This is an AP invoice that needs to be approved. It gets sent off to the manager. He or she gets an email. The invoice is attached to the email. Within the body of the email, there's also some information such as the vendor name, invoice number, the invoice date, how it was coded, if it's a non-PO based invoice. And then simply as the manager, right from email, click approve or deny. Makes it super easy for managers to approve. And you could even set automated alerts and reminders if things don't get approved on time. So managers get second notification, or there's escalation procedures. Maybe after the second notification, if the manager still hasn't approved, maybe it gets escalated to their boss for approval. But something also you could do as part of the workflow is set workflow delegation. Delegate your workflow to someone else, especially if you're on vacation or if you're going to be on leave for some reason. Certainly you can delegate your workflow to another individual. You could set a date and time for it to start and a date and time for it to end. And for instance, if you do come back early And from your leave or vacation, you could revoke those rights and the workflows would come back to you. So automated way to get things right around. Mobile capture, imagine being able to capture from anywhere. If you're a service organization and you're servicing equipment or you're installing equipment for your customer and you want to take pictures of the equipment you're servicing or installing or whatever it may be, certainly you can take pictures and upload these images into DocLink and store them under your customer file. Makes it super easy. Mobile capture is also utilized for expense report. We use it here in-house. We use DocLink, and I use it to capture my expense receipts and upload them to do my expense reports as well. So some of the key wins for AP and streamlining approvals, approval, denials, being able to add notes from anywhere, enter in geocodes is really easy through the system, being able to view supporting documents to that invoice as part of the workflow process, delegate workflows for approval when you are away, and reducing any human errors as it relates to entering in these transactions right into the ERP. Definitely helps you. Let's talk about one of our clients, Citizen of Potawatomi Nation. This is a federal recognized Native American tribe. They work to retain the culture while being a front runner in the Native American business. They have more than 29,000 tribe members that are enrolled in the business. They have everything from grocery stores, travel plazas, golf course. They have a radio station. So they have health clinics and banks as well. And in this tribe, some of the key initial needs that they wanted to take advantage of within DocLink, which they've implemented in 1996. So they've been on the system for 22 years. The first thing they wanted to take care of is automating their AP process, managing AP invoices and storing and managing them all electronically while integrating with the ERP, providing workflow automation. They were able to get rid of 20 rolling office file cabinets and getting rid of that just by implementing DocLink. And they were able to expand DocLink through the years into HR and other parts of the business. So definitely they were able to do that all themselves without going through us after they've gone through our admin training. So definitely an example of a client that utilizes DocLink throughout their business beyond just AP. Started with AP, but expanded beyond that. A long-time client. So as I mentioned, a lot of our clients start with AP, probably 80% of them start with automating that process and managing that process because it's such a tedious task and time-consuming task managing it via paper, and especially with your audits as well. But it's more than just about AP. DocLink solves your AP problems, but can do more than just AP. Some of the other areas that we could do is the full procure-to-pay process. Imagine if you're able to do, requisitions, to do requisition submission and for approval, and being able to integrate back to the ERP to create the PO, and then being able to submit that PO to your vendor, and then bringing back the receipt of goods, and then doing the invoice verification and matching, and then invoice approval, payment, and all that. I mean, all in the entire procure-to-pay to do the full loop cycle of not just AP invoice automation, but the full procure-to-pay process. Certainly, we can help you with that. So the procure-to-pay process with DocLink starts with the requisition. As I mentioned, we have a forms capability, web forms, where you can actually create the requisition. Someone creates the requisition. It goes off through a workflow process that goes through an approval process. In our system, people get notified, whoever needs to approve this requisition. And once the requisition is approved, we push the requisition back into the ERP to create the PO. And from there, the PO, we can bring in the PO back into our system. So we not only have the requisition, the actual PO, and we can also automatically send the PO to the vendor as well. Whether you want to do it in our system or within the ERP, you can do it either way. The invoice process and bringing it in, Scanning it via OCR, if it requires any approval or exception handling, it certainly can do that. And of course, the automatic import into the Sage ERP system, creating the invoice, and then AP payment issued through Sage for payment when you folks are ready to do that. So that's the whole life cycle. So all the documents are stored in DocLink, right? And you're able to access these right from the Sage screen. So the requisition, the PO, the receipt of goods, the invoice, and even the payment issue, all within DocLink. So the DocLink procure-to-pay process, the procurement side is the requisition approval, the creation of the purchase order, and sending of the PO to the vendor. But then there's the invoice, the check process, right? The invoice, the receipt of invoice, the three-way matching, the approval of the invoice, and then the payment to the vendor as part of some of the the documentation that's required and gets stored within DocLink. Accounts receivable is another common use case of DocLink. And how does that work, you may ask? Well, a lot of organizations send out AR invoice still via paper. So imagine being able to, when you create that out of the ERP system, bringing it into our system, maybe there's supporting documents, maybe there's specific based routing rules that you want to send in, which we can send it out, the document via email, and supporting documents that are in our system that need to go along with it. Quite often we see a common use case is a signed delivery ticket, right? And you're able to send these documents out quicker, lump them all together. And now I know the ERP allows you to send out the AR invoice, but what about supporting documents that you need to lump with it, right? So DocLink will pull in not only the invoice from the ERP system, but then also the supporting documents that are in our system. So maybe you need a signed delivery ticket, maybe the contract that was signed with the customer. Whatever those documents are, we can lump them together into one email and send it out. There could be other avenues in terms of ways you want to send out the information, whether it's by email, whether it's the customer wants it via fax, whether this client wants you to print all these documents out together and then you put in an envelope and send it, or we could file copy it, or we can FTP it out. So a lot of different delivery methods. But what's nice is we can lump all these documents together and send it out as one, right? Whatever method they want, versus how you folks maybe do it today, which may be more of a manual process. We can automate that. So why should you care? If you're able to get your invoices out and supporting documents that your customer requires, you can get paid faster, right? Which drives down day sales outstanding, more revenue and more dollars in your bank account, which increases your working capital, and of course reduces any human errors that are involved in managing that process manually today. If we were able to automate it, all the documents are sent out together and managed together. And that's utilizing our output manager and supplemental documents, being able to configure those specific routing rules. But beyond just sending out the AR invoice and supporting documents, what are other examples of things that we can automatically send out with supporting documents? Things such as quotes, sales order acknowledgments, AR invoice we talked about, customer statements, payment information, remittance advice, reimbursements and refund letters to your customers, purchase orders, maybe going out to your vendor with the quote that you received from them. So a lot of different things you could send out, not only to customers, vendors, but maybe things that you want to send out internally. It could be on the HR side that you want to send things out internally to your internal employees. So here's an example of some of our clients that utilize our output manager and supplemental documents to send out documents to their clients or their vendors, being able to automate that process, which it brings them tons of value, eliminating postage, reducing the time it takes to manage this process, and improves their internal work environment by getting these out electronically. Another use case of DocLink is contract. So could you use DocLink for contract? So some questions you can ask yourself. Do you need to track multiple versions of documents? We have a check-in and check-out capability where you could track different versions and multiple iterations of contracts if it gets adjusted. We have a checkout and check-in capability, and it tracks who made those edits and when they made them and when they checked them back in, given you have permissions to do so. Everything is based on security. And do your contracts require some type of approval or notification? Let's say if a contract is coming due to expire in 60 days, wouldn't you want to get notified so you can be proactive to either renew the contract, renegotiate the contract, whether it's with a customer or with a vendor, whatever that may be, right? Are you missing deadlines because contracts are expiring and you're not, being proactive about them? So your answer yes to any of these, DocLink can help you by managing those contracts. What about for those remote users, right? We talked about earlier being able to capture from anywhere. So imagine if you have a remote force, whether you're a service organization or you have people out in the field because you're a contractor, whatever that may be, being able to capture and onboard documents wherever from your mobile becomes important. So if you get maybe a signed NDA or some type of contract from a customer, from a vendor, imagine being able to upload it right with your mobile device from your email, right? Uploading files. You could upload the files, make it super easy, open it, you take a look at it, you upload it into DocLink, and you could select whatever document type it is, right? This is an NDA for a customer. You type in the customer name, whatever the project may be, and then you save it. It gets stored within DocLink under that document type. Maybe it's an NDA document type, and it's gets stored under that customer, and you can upload it once you're done. You could also capture photos. I talked about earlier, being able to capture images, photos of maybe equipment or items that you're servicing because you're a service organization. Here's an example, maybe a roof that you service, being able to upload it and assign it to the customer that here's the before and after picture of the work that you did for this area that required servicing, right? Common use case of DocLink Mobile and being able to upload, but also expense report. Talked about being able to take a picture of your receipts, upload it into DocLink, type in a couple of key data elements, and submitting your expense report that way. I use it all the time when I travel. So mobile capture is just another way to index documents and bring documents into DocLink. And it's utilized a lot, especially when you have folks on the road, folks out in the field that do field work. Very easy way to utilize DocLink through our mobile capability. Another common use case, here's an example of Oscar W. Larson Company. They are a contractor with tons of remote employees, and they have tons of forms that they access and upload into DocLink and manage. Today, they have over 4 million documents, and people on the field sometimes need to access documents. They don't have access to their computer, so they're looking on their iPad that have, mobile access there, or their iPhone, or their Android-compatible tablets or whatever, being able to access documents easily and answer inquiries or on-job site inquiries for their customers became really important. Being able to automatically send documents through an approval process if they need to upload a document made it super easy, having that mobile workforce with the mobile capability of bringing in documents into DocLink, uploading them, send them for review and approval, or just storage of that information, which helped them save and be able to not only service their customers better, but also managing things on the vendor side and their vendor relationships much better as well. Forms. We talked about all different forms. So do you folks have forms today? Question to ask yourself, do you have forms that are manual today, whether it's paper forms or Excel-based forms? Do you spend a lot of time processing corporate credit cards to do reconciliation? You have a corporate card where you have 10 people maybe part of the corporate card. Do you have to spend hours every month to reconcile those? Are your approval process manual and efficient for these forms? The answer is yes to any of those, so we certainly can help. We certainly can utilize our forms to do credit card reconciliation, where we can upload the CSV file from the credit card company. It separates the charges by the cardholder's name, and from there, the cardholder can upload their receipts for each line item. And it makes it super easy for AP to manage that process, because really you're leaving it up into the individual's hands to take care of uploading their receipts and everything for each credit card transaction. And we can put time limits and reminders and things like that on those processes as well. What about the human resource side? We talked a lot about on the accounting side, the AR, the AP side, forms, but what about on the HR side? How can DocLink bring value within your organization for your human resource department? So some of the key concerns is better security of the employee documentations. Not everything is in filing cabinets, right? Streamlining maybe an employee onboarding process or termination process through a workflow tool with documentations and backup documentation. Automate delivery of documents to employees. We talked about automatically sending documents out to an employee. Maybe you have a new employee handbook that you want to automatically send to all the employees in your organization for them to sign off on, right? It makes it super easy. Being in compliance, and what about your HR and labor audits, right? Being able to get everything electronic so that your audits are much more smooth when it comes to those audits, your HR audits. Accessibility to documents when you need them at your fingertips for those HR folks. And even providing employees access to documents that are related to them, right? Tracking employee certifications and achievements. Some organizations require employees to have certain licenses and certifications and achievements that require, whether it's continuous education or recertifications on, right? So being able to track those and notifying the employee and their managers that these things are coming due and things need to happen becomes huge, right? So better security for employee documentation. All employees can have one place to access information as it relates to them. Managers can access documents related to their employees. Of course, you can lock things down, so you want to make sure that the appropriate person has the access to the appropriate documents based on their user login and information. We can have encryption on sensitive data and redact data, and make certain documents only available on-site versus off-site, right, based on security. So streamlining onboarding termination process, you can add, retrieve, keeping track of files are easy, enter in personnel information into the system and managing those documents. All onboarding processes are streamlined with workflow, audit reports on everything. So we keep track of a full audit history, and I'll show you in a little bit on what happens to a document, and also being HIPAA compliant as well. So with security, we lock things down in many different ways. So like I mentioned earlier, we at the top level is by company. You can create multiple companies inside DocLink like you could within your ERP system. We have multiple entities. So the first level of security is by company. Me as a user, when I log into DocLink, which company can I have access to? And then we talk about department and document types. Which department am I in? And what document types can I access? Maybe I'm an AP clerk and I can only access AP invoices, POs, and receipt of goods for vendors that start with A through M, and only for company ABC, right? None of the other companies I'll have access to. We can even lock things down all the way down to the individual property values or metadata values of the document, index values. So for instance, maybe I could access vendors A through M for company ABC, but only invoices that are up to $1,000. Anything beyond that, I will never see or be able to access. So we can lock things down all the way down to the individual property level values. And then once I'm able to access that document or content, what can I do with it? Can I print it out? Can I email it? Can I delete it? Can I make changes to the property values? What can I do with it? So that's also security that you can set up for users. Everything is fully tracked, and as you see here, there's a full audit history of a document within our system. It shows date and timestamp, who did what, when they did it, who approved it, when they approved it, even all the way down to just view. If someone viewed it, when they viewed it, date and timestamp. So there's a full audit history, so there's no question in terms of what happened to the document, what changes were made, who made them, when, and what those changes were. So full audit history. So it makes it super easy when your auditors take a look at these documents and request for documents, that we make it super easy for them to see what happens to the document. But also beyond that, some of our clients allow and create an audit user for the auditors to log in the system. But even better than that, whatever information your auditors are requesting, you could do simple searches, and you could export those documents into like a CD or onto a flash drive and give it to your auditors, right? Instead of them logging into the system, you export everything they ask for onto a flash drive. Give them the flash drive. With that export, they get a light client of DocLink, so they can search and retrieve for all the documents they requested for that you've exported. They could see who approved it, when they approved it, and all this audit history as part of it. Makes it super easy, not only for you folks and the time that you spend furnishing documents and pulling out documents and files for your auditors, but then it makes it easier on their behalf because they're not shuffling through paper. They're doing it all electronically. And then once they're done, they could just give you back the flash drive and you wipe it out and delete it. Imagine being able to do all that. You know, what's the time it's taking you folks to do it on the front end? Days or weeks to gather all the documents, right? Imagine being able to export this out, search and do the export within minutes, putting it on a flash drive, give it to your auditors, and then not having to refile it when you know they're done, right? So that saves you a ton of time, not only on the front end but the back end, as well as your auditors' times. Another case study of a client that started with AP, a company called Riago is a supermarket operation in Puerto Rico. What's really important for them was the AP side, right? Initially, they started with the AP, and they expanded beyond just AP because HR, they realized, is such a high need within their organization, because being a supermarket, you're constantly hiring folks and people leave, and you know there's personnel action that needs to take place. So they have 600 employees, 5 stores. Each store is, you know, roughly 30,000 square foot. They do over 100 million in sales last year. Personnel department of 4 people, which is their HR department, and managing all these files for the employees in paper were really tedious and time consuming for these 4 people with that many employees. So what they were able to do is implement DocLink to start automating their AP process, but as they grew, realized, you know what, we can utilize this for HR, being able to streamlining our HR onboarding process and managing our employee personnel action and whatnot. So what they were able to do is create a resume bank within our system of all the resumes they get. And based on the need of hire, they will search and retrieve for the resumes that are useful for that. And also store supporting documents for that employee, for that resume, being able to do employee requests for time off was another thing that they implemented. Different employee events that they implemented through our system, through our forms, as well as time off, things such as anniversaries, promotions, disciplinary actions, and demotions, things like that, different employee events that they were able to create utilizing our forms with personnel action notice and status change and whatnot. So certainly we're able to improve their HR department by being able to make timely decisions, make better decisions, provide a better working environment for the 4 folks that manage 600 employees. They didn't have to hire additional staff in HR to manage all these employees, reduce their hiring costs, and made their organization look more professional to the outside when they have all these onboarding processes and review process all electronically. So the unforeseen improvement that they were able to realize by implementing HR is that resume bank that I talked about. Being able to manage employee events, they have an acceptance process when they're onboarding a new employee. And being able to get managers to respond quicker with automation of workflow if they're looking to hire someone for their department, right? Having that automation of notification and workflow was a huge improvement on their behalf. So with an enterprise-wide solution, certainly human resources is part of that, onboarding, certifications, and licenses, etc. All the documentations that you will have for an employee through the life cycle of an employee at your company. But contract management is another big area. Facilities management and field service organizations as well, all the documentations and things that you need when you're on the field at your fingertips. Huge time savers beyond just AR and AP, right? DocLink can be utilized enterprise-wide. So what I'd like to do next is ask Ashley to open up. There's a poll that we're going to open up on, and these are just a list of a lot of the different mission-critical processes that we can automate for your organization. There's some selections that you can select based on the poll. So if you want to go ahead and look at the poll, Ashley, I'm not sure if you launched the poll on that.
Let me take a look. It says the poll is in progress right now.
Oh, the poll is in progress. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So you folks can click on which one of those processes or mission critical processes that most interest you folks. Certainly, things such as accounts payable, automation. We see very common audit and compliance, travel requests and approvals, HR, employee management, procure-to-pay, customer service, order processing, all common things that we see and we've worked with clients and implement. All right. While that poll is going, some other things I wanted to talk about is why DocLink, right? DocLink, well, DocLink is a world-class product. A little bit history on Alltech. Alltech has been in business for 33 years, founded in 1985. We are headquartered in Laguna Hills, California. We are a U.S.-based company. Our support development is all here in the U.S. Product's been around for over 20 years. Solid product. We have over probably close to 3,300 different companies using DocLink today, most of which are here in North America because we're here in the U.S. But we have clients all over the world. We do have clients in Europe, South America, Australia, Asia. So we do provide support. One of the key things is our outstanding support. We provide support 24/7, 365 days a year. Not a lot of organizations can say that. We always have someone on call to support our clients, whether it's nights, weekends, or a holiday. And then our implementation process, definitely our quick implementation based on what you folks want to deploy initially, and then grow from there. Great implementation team of over 20 people as part of our implementation staff team, all Alltech employees, so certainly very certified and reliable team there as well. With that, I wanted to see if there's any questions that came through during this presentation. I know we have about 11 minutes left of our time. Certainly, if there's any questions, we can get those answered.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. I'm sure everyone on the line will find the demo you provided will give them the necessary information to decide if this product is right for them. Before we begin the Q&A, if you have any additional questions after the Q&A, please email your account manager, or if you do not know who your account manager is, please email CAMTEAM, that's CAMTEAM @swktech.com. Now let's see what questions came in for Q&A. We have, how is the payment portion stored in DocLink?
Yeah, so if you folks are, let's say when you create the ACH or check payment out of Sage, we can automatically pick up that payment remittance and store it in our system and link it to the invoice or invoices that it pays for.
Okay, we've got another question. Is there a need for the company to retain the check stub, or is that scanned into DocLink? Sorry.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to scan it in. We can automatically pick it up as part of our integration with the ERP systems. You don't have to print it and then scan it in. We can pick it up as part of the creation of that payment. Whether you want to store it or not, completely up to you. You don't have to store it. But a lot of our clients do store it as one complete package.
Okay, is this security based on Sage's permissions or completely separate permissions?
It's separate because we could set things up by document type. So Sage has its own permissions, but certainly our system has its own as well because it's based on not only companies. Sure, you can have companies within Sage, but you don't have document type permissions and metadata type permissions to access documents. So those do need to be managed through DocLink.
Okay, thank you. Is this View Documents button standard, or will it have to be created for us?
It would be, it's basically standard, but we put it wherever you want it within the screens that we integrate with.
Okay, and it looks like that was all of the questions we had in the question queue. So let's see. There's any other questions?
Yeah, and certainly if there's any other questions that come up after this and you folks think about it after, reach out to your CAM team or whoever your rep is at SWK. Certainly we'll filter it through Alltech and we'll get those questions answered. If you folks want to actually go through a full evaluation of DocLink, certainly reach out to SWK and we can coordinate that. Get a better understanding, do a discovery call, have an understanding of what you folks are looking to accomplish, then walk through a demonstration of the software and how it can work for your business based on the ERP, whichever Sage ERP you're using.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Patrick. Well, that includes our webinar today. Thanks again for attending, and everyone, please have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.